Here's how to fill out an N4, and an N4 is used for tenants that are not paying rent, so non-payment of rent essentially. You can see I filled out the tenant name and address. Make sure you don't forget the postal code. At the top, you've got a termination date and the total amount that they owe. I've just added the sticker to cover my personal information, but it's not super top secret. You already know who I am, really. But just to make sure, I'm circling here the dates. You have to make sure that you get these dates correctly. What I normally do is I put the last month that they were not paying as a separate line item, and then I consolidate all the other line items together. Typically, I don't let it go this far, but I was being stupid. So it's my own fault that it went this bad. I should have served and filed right away. But, anyways, moving on from my stupidity and learn from my mistakes, get on these forms right away. So, back up to the top here, that 14 days after you serve the notice is when that termination date is. So, if you serve it on the 2nd of the month, you can file it after the 16th. So that's why I put the 16th there, and I'll file it on the 17th. You also need to fill out a certificate of service, and this essentially outlines how and when you gave it to the tenants. So in my case, I gave it on the 2nd of the month, and I left it in the mailbox. So I outline that, and then I fill out my information, sign it, and add the date. I try to do this at the same time that I fill out my N4 so I don't forget and make any mistakes, because this is mandatory to submit with the L1 application. The tenant doesn't necessarily get a copy of this directly. So after you do all that, you go to file your L1. That would be on the 17th of the month if you served it on the 2nd. And your L1 application looks kind of like this. So if you need any accommodations, the address again is just populated through the online service. So landlord information, that's pretty typical. Again, you don't want to make any mistakes on this. One thing that's super important is to make sure that if you are owning it in your personal name, that you are either using a paralegal or you have to do it yourself. You can't have an employee or random person doing it. So I've just circled here the total amount that they owe me, which includes the filing fee of $186. So their total arrears, including the 186. And as you go through the application, you'll note that there's some other things that is given to the tenant in terms of information on what they can and can't do and what causes the application to immediately be thrown out. It's really interesting reading, because you'll realize how few rights we actually have when it comes to this stuff as landlords. And the details of the claim are just processed through. This is all populated from you filling out the application from the N4. So again, landlord information underneath there. You got to make sure that you attach your N4, your certificate of service, and make sure there's no mistakes on there, because that'll get your whole thing to get thrown out and you got to start again. So after you finish your application, you get a notice of hearing. So in my case, I filed in July. My hearing's in end of September, coming up soon. And it just goes over the details of what the hearing will entail and what happens if you attend, don't attend, what kind of evidence you need to give, when you need to serve the evidence. So in my case, I typically email and mail to the tenant any evidence as early as I can without it being obnoxious. And got to make sure that you have multiple kind of sources so that they don't say I didn't get it. And once you get your hearing date, right before the hearing, you also need to file your L1, L9 information update, which accounts for any rent that there's missing or that's new, or any payments that they made. So you just go through and fill it out. In my case, they still owe rent, of course. They haven't moved out. They haven't paid fucking anything. So they owe much more than when I initially filed. And obviously I'm asking for that filing fee. There you see it populated there. So they owe me just over 13 grand. Don't forget to sign the declaration with your name. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Looking forward to helping you through this and making sure that you don't make the same mistakes I did when filling out these forms.